Bombshell tonight in the case of a so-called loving mom, Lindsay Clancy, who now reveals a male voice ordered her to kill her 3 tots. This as video and photos emerge of her ex canoodling.
The case of Lindsay Clancy is not a whodunit. She has admitted to strangling her 3 children.
3 little tots, 1 an infant, all found strangled dead by mommy.
And my closing
The question
argument
is why. But as her trial unfolds, a different kind of courtroom drama is playing out, one that has nothing to do with legal arguments and everything to do with the man who was once her husband. Patrick Clancy has moved on. He has remarried.
You are seeing Patrick Clancy having moved on with his life after one of the most devastating things any person can imagine. You know, he has moved on and married. He's married.
The images of his new life are now clashing with the horrifying testimony of his old one, creating a spectacle that has divided the public and raised a question that is as uncomfortable as it is unavoidable. In a case where the central defense is a voice from a psychotic break, the public has become fixated on a completely different narrative, one whispered in the shadows of conspiracy and fueled by a single damning photograph.
Nancy, that photo right there is of Patrick Clancy and Dr. Rachel Dennis, not to be confused with Lindsay Clancy, because a lot of people online are saying that those 2 ladies look a lot alike.
Before we go deeper into what the evidence actually shows, make sure you're subscribed to CrimeNest Media. Because we don't just cover the story, we follow the facts. The prosecution and the defense are battling over the mind of Lindsay Clancy. A forensic psychologist, Paul Ziesel, testified that she told him about a command hallucination, a male voice that instructed her to kill her children and then herself.
The chilling 911 audio played in front of a jury. Now we understand that loving mom, so-called loving mom, Lindsay Clancy, states that a male voice ordered her to kill. Why always a male voice?
The defense argues this is the hallmark of a severe postpartum psychotic episode. But the prosecution pushes back, noting a critical detail. None of Clancy's treatment records from the months before the killings document her ever reporting such a voice to a medical professional. She had spoken of intrusive thoughts, dark and self-directed, but not the specific auditory command that now forms the core of her insanity plea. The question of when she first heard the voice and who she told has become a central battle in the trial. He has moved on. It's a contrast that is stark and, for many, deeply unsettling. As a psychologist, Dr. Geraldine Utter noted on the podcast, Crime Stories, there's a dangerous confusion happening. People are blurring the lines between being a negligent husband and being a murderer. A man who may not have been attentive enough to his wife's mental health crisis is being recast in some corners of the internet as a mastermind behind the deaths of his own children.
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting, Nancy. We're liking Patrick Clancy to a serial killer. And, you know, clearly there's been no formal evidence that he has done anything.
Okay,
He has moved on. A phrase that should signify a man's attempt to survive an unfathomable tragedy is instead being whispered as a curse. He has moved on. This fixation has manifested in intense online scrutiny.
But then there's a video painting an entirely different picture. Let's see the video of Patrick Clancy and the new wife. Look at this. She's on the phone. He was observed pacing back and forth shortly after the photo was taken. And he's sending texts. And it actually, to me, looks
Some on social media have latched onto the idea that Patrick Clancy changed his clothes during his errands on the night of the murders, a supposed clue that he had time to return home and commit the killings. Forensic analysis of surveillance footage from the CVS and the 3V restaurant.
I mean, for Pete's sake, Patrick Clancy has his shoes off. He is not in public. No. They're wearing the same clothes they're wearing in the video. He has his shoes off. They are not in public. So I don't know what you think the felony.
However, paints a different picture. The different video qualities, angles, and lighting make it appear as though he is wearing different attire. But a closer look reveals the same coat, the same jeans, and the same brown shoes. He has moved on. The timeline, too, dismantles the conspiracy. Patrick left the Clancy home at 5:50 p.m., arrived at CVSS at 5:32 p.m., and was at the 3V restaurant by 5:45 p.m. To believe he committed the murders, He would have had to leave the restaurant, drive home, kill 3 children, drive back, and be seen on video, all in 13
later.
minutes.
So what? Somebody wants to argue between 5:32 and 5:45. He left CVS, went home, murdered 3 children, left, and came back to 3V at 5:45. And then he's home at 6:09. No, that did not happen.
It is a physically impossible sequence of events.
Let me just stop you right there. The husband didn't do it. Okay? Because pings, video, the pings on his phone, the video here and other places, his GPS, in his car, the pickup time of the dinner, his wife.
As Nancy Grace pointed out, his GPS, phone pings, and the pickup time for the food all place him outside the home during the window the children were killed. The real story is a tragedy of profound human contradiction.
Again, she admits she killed her children. She has pled not guilty, NGBRI, not guilty by reason of insanity, which means I did it, but I was insane. So let's be clear. She has pled
A
not
mother,
guilty.
celebrated as a wonderful mom, is accused of the unthinkable. A father, testifying through tears about the children he lost, is accused by a public mob of something even more unthinkable.
And that is an overwhelming perception that somehow Patrick Clancy was in on the murders or did the murders.
He has begun legal action against her medical providers and founded a charity in his children's memory to help other parents, a quest for meaning in the ruins of his life. This is the man who, after the deaths, posted on a GoFundMe page, asking the public to forgive his ex-wife, describing her as generously loving and caring. The public, it seems, is less willing to grant him the same grace. The central irony of this case is that the public has become so absorbed in a conspiracy it has created.
To understand is there's been a lot of evidence and talk about him not being the best husband, being a negligent husband, not helping her when she's in mental health crisis, not helping her in a time of need. And I think there's confusion about somebody who maybe was not a great husband and was a terrible husband and didn't help his wife versus a murderer.
The transcript of the trial testimony shows a man who testified for the state but, according to observers, helped the defense, a detail that is viewed with suspicion rather than as a sign of a broken man clinging to a version of his family that no longer exists. It's a powerful reminder that in the court of public opinion, evidence often takes a backseat to emotion. The trial of Lindsay Clancy is a story about a family destroyed by mental illness and a man trying to rebuild a life from the ashes. But the jury of public opinion is still deliberating. The official court documents, including the testimony of the forensic psychologist Paul Zeisel, are public record. Read them for yourself and ask yourself, in a case with no true villains, why are we so desperate to create one?